Back again for another video. On today's topic, we'll be discussing the picture that you see and other rhetoric associated with it. In this picture, on the left of this picture is, well, on the left and the right, both my exes. That is my first and second wife. I've always been a man that has had a desire for more than one woman. And I knew this at a very young age, I guess you can say. It was my early 20s that I realized this. And this is something that I have been in practice of for most of my life. The situation where this picture was taken was in between my relationships with these two individuals. It was nearly the end of one and the start of another. Nearly the end with the one on the left and the start with the one on the right. The two children on my lap are my children. That is my first daughter and my second daughter. My son had not been born at that point in time. But in both scenarios in which I guess I should tell the story. Well, I met my first wife in back in Detroit. That's where I live, of course. From the earlier parts of my childhood, right? And I knew her from the beginning of my high school year all the way up, right? It was in 9th grade. That's when I first met her. And we remained friends for a very long time, all the way until I joined the military, which was roughly about, how long ago? How long was that? That was about, from the point that I joined the military and the point that I known her, that was about 8 years before I married her. And I married her because I wanted to have someone familiar with me in an unfamiliar place, because I had been in Detroit all of my life. And I was, up in upstate New York, which was a foreign place to me compared to what I had experienced in my childhood and up. And having someone from back home to be with was a very familiar thing for me. I had no idea. I had no problem with being alone. I've always been a loner for majority of my life, but I had a desire to be with someone at that point in time. But the reason why let's go over the reason why I'm bringing up this story first in the first place, is because women are non-accepting of what men appear as, of what we know ourselves to be. Once again, I know myself to be this person that you see in the picture at a very young age. Even while the picture was being taken, both women were aware of exactly who I was, right? In regards to my relationship that I have with women. And I progressed throughout my life where I constantly ran into women who I was honest with. And they always tried to shift the narrative of my existence. They tried to repurpose me, essentially, into what they desired me to be. Not because I showed a willingness to do so, not because I lended myself to be that, not because I sold them a dream either. It was because of their own pride, right? So anyways, I was married to the first wife for roughly about 4 years, and we were having issues in regards to her level of honesty about herself. I won't go into great detail about that here, but that's where I'll leave it. And I prompted her. I told her, I was like, I would rather, I would rather stay with you, but I cannot stay with you in the state in which you are not honest with yourself completely. You still have some evolving to do. You have some maturing to be had. And I told her straight up, I am going to find someone else if you do not correct these things, but I will not put you away. I will not seek to separate myself from you. This is your opportunity to fix things. And of course, she pushed back on these things. And of course, I sought another woman. Well, at the time where I met this woman, which is the woman on the right hand side, I told her that my situation and what the circumstances were. She was very fully accepting and aware of this. This was a woman who had high interest in me first, right? And she was go along to get along, which is fine. Well, it's whatever. But I told my current wife at the time that I had met someone, and I would like you to meet her, and she agreed to that. So they met up, and they talked. The second wife, she was actually bisexual, and she had no problems with being with another woman. This is very early on when bisexuality was kind of a new trend at the time, but nonetheless, that's how she carried herself, and that's how she behaved. So I accepted her as that. But when it came to the discussion in regards to how this should go, I wanted to include them both because I had already had a child with the woman who I was with. That's the reason why you see 2 children on my lap, remember? But my second child, my second daughter, had not been born yet. This is at the point in time where the discussion once again was being had of formulating a household where I was the man and there were 2 women, right? And my ex didn't go for it. She was totally against it, but she understood where I was coming from. That's one common denominator that I have experienced in regards to approaching women with my ideological views on relationships. They totally understand, but something in them pushes back, right? Well, moving along, when it comes to my second ex, she was, like I said, bisexual. She had no problem with including another woman. The issue of it is that she lacked emotional maturity. So there came another impasse in the relationship where there was something necessary to be had, such as the growth of her person. And we separated, but before we ended the relationship, she wanted me once again to be something that I was not, and that was a monogamous man. I know that sounds strange, being that she's a bisexual woman, but it was more geared towards the sexual aspect of expression rather than the structural aspect of expression. That's another thing that I have found to be a common denominator. Women like to push boundaries. They like flexibility. What a relationship brings is boundaries. There are things that you should not do and cannot do to maintain or consider such thing as a relationship if you want to have one. There are certain rules that you have to follow, and these rules are usually governed by the agreements made, right? And the expectation of fidelity is a definite rule for a majority of relationships, to my knowledge. But there were times in which the interaction with other women was not considered to be a infidel type of situation, because once again, she was bisexual. So that had no huge bearing on the so-called quote unquote fidelity of the relationship, because we agreed to this. A lot of people think that their version of fidelity is the staple for in which other relationships following or govern. And if it doesn't follow their own personal views, then they get to label it as something that it is not, according to the defining of the individuals in the relationship. But of course, people are people, right? Anyways, what happened with her was, like I said, she wanted to have the sexual aspect of the relationship with other women, but not the structural aspect of relationship with other women. I mean, we had other issues upon the relationship aside from that, but once again, I was still expected to be someone that I was not. And to be fair, I was in my infant stage of communication. And I don't mean infant as talking like a baby, but I'm talking about as an adult. This is my first introduction into communicating with women effectively to the point where I get my point across. So there were times in which I would speak that it was not coherent to speak to her level of femininity properly in a way that she could decipher and understand what I'm talking about. So much so that, it came to a mutual understanding. So that was another barrier that I encountered as well, which of course I have improved upon greatly and immensely. And I have also made, very much a lot of corrections to those things. So I don't necessarily have those issues anymore with being honest and being upfront and straightforward with a lot of things, but I'm not perfect. So of course there are going to be circumstances in which these things are, I guess you can say, a problem at times. But anyways, moving forward, let's go back a little bit. Before this picture was taken, my first introduction into the lifestyle was with two white girls. I was actually with two white girls, and I talk about this on my other channel. I was with two white girls. It was my girl and her friend at the time, which then of course became my girl, and they helped me out immensely because I was in a circumstance where I needed someone to lean on, and the way in which they helped me is another story, but nonetheless, they were there for me and they had my back. This was my first introduction into the utility of a woman, right? Most men's first introduction into the utility of a woman is their mother telling them what to do. But I'm talking about outside of their mother. But when it comes to them, it's usually flings, relationships, and stuff like that. And I never really necessarily had those things. I was very much into my books. I was very much into higher learning and education. I liked anime a lot at the time too. This is back in the late 90s. But anyways, when it came to these women, this was my first introduction into a serious relationship. My first serious relationship was with two women. How many men can actually say that, right? But moving forward again, when it came to after my second marriage, I took a period of time, roughly about 2 or 3 years, where I didn't engage in any serious relationships because I felt that no one understood or wanted to accept exactly what I was. And of course, through the rhetoric that I have spilled here on YouTube, we can clearly see that my mind has clearly changed from that point of view. It's not me that's the problem. It's totally them that's the problem. And that may sound like a very narcissistic thing to say, but I look upon it not with subjectivity. I look at it with objectivity. And people could say, yes, you're biasly picking out objectivity, but why is it that many men in this atmosphere share similar stories as mine? Not to the exactness, because once again, how many men first real relationship is with two women? But I'm talking about in the outcomes of things and some of the problems that occur We share many similarities in which we tell our stories and the circumstances that have happened to us. So it's not from a narcissistic point of view in which that I'm explaining that a lot of the issues that we have as men are systemic, and it's not just me. Because we all experience similar things when it comes to women who are affected by a similar catalyst of pathology, right? But anyways, when it comes to me, I then started to realize after that short period of time where I took time to myself and not have serious relationships, that I was lacking in my communication about who I was exactly. I searched very broadly and widely within myself about who I was. And this was roughly about my early 30s, I would say, early to mid 30s. This is not that long ago because I'm still in my late 30s myself right now. So it was late 20s, early 30s that I started to search about myself for the answers that I had externally looked high and low for, because that was the place that I had never thought to look. People would say that's strange, but remember, I come from a culture, especially if you understand Detroit, where the men are not taught how to be men. They are taught how to be brutes and survivors at best, right? And people would say that that could be some makings of a man, but that is not a total man that is being made. That is a survivalist, and that is a perpetuator of pathology at best, right? And I didn't want to I didn't want to be that. I understood that I was so much more than just that. So that's the reason why I joined the military, to access a larger point of view and a larger point of opportunity than I had in Detroit. But anyways, when it comes to defining myself and looking within myself, I experimented a lot. I did a lot of things. I was in the lifestyle, like I said, for about, me and my ex, we started it, and that was mid 2007s, like in there. So I've been part of the lifestyle for a very long time, because that's where we would get our women from, right? And that gave me a taste of what was inside of me, because I was not completely satisfied with just having more than one woman sexually. I wanted more than one woman in regards to structure. That was my satisfaction. That was what I was longing for, but I didn't know that at the time. She also helped access this in me. Even though I had my first serious relationship with two women, I was young. I was too young to comprehend what was going on. I was doing it out of necessity rather than desire. So I thought. But it was only until after a relationship that I started to explore these things of multiple women on my own, because once again, the relationship had separated, that I started to realize that there was a nature about me. And then I started to explore what that nature was. And lo and behold, it is the nature of man. It is the nature of most men on this earth. And then I started to read, I started to study, I started to look high and low, because once I found the answer within myself, I looked outside to see what supported what I felt and what I understood about myself consciously. So when I started to get more into the lifestyle, I run into different types of people who are into very different things. Once again, I talk about some of these things on my other channel at length, right? So this shouldn't be foreign to my diehard listeners, right? But for you newcomers, this is my introduction into explaining the lifestyle, because I never did it on this channel before, to my knowledge. I've done a lot of videos, but not to my knowledge. I can't remember discussing it in such a way that I am now. But that picture that you see is a subconscious representation of what I understand consciously now, is that I've always been the man who has desired to have more than one woman. It is not because of lust. It's not because of anything like that. It's because I've always had this vision, which I won't necessarily share here, but I'll give a little tidbit of it. I've had this vision where there is an outcome that is success for me. And in that vision, there is more than one woman there. Don't know why that is, don't know where it came from, don't know what it means, but I understand that it is part of the path that I'm supposed to be on. And I'm just perpetuating that because it is part of my purpose for existence. A lot of people believe your purpose for existence is necessarily what you're good at. Not all the time. Sometimes your purpose for existence is to be an example for something. And you may not be good at being an example, but here we go, right? And that's where I fall firmly in my stance for polygamy. Even women within my current lifetime, what I mean by current lifetime is the past 5 years, I have ran into plenty of women who are not sure of themselves. They have no idea who they are. I have reached such a level of evolution where I went through things, I experienced a lot of things that a lot of women can only imagine. Not imagine as in desire, but imagine as in it's never happened to them. When I'm explaining this stuff to them, and they become intrigued by the idea, they become intrigued by the possibility of a new frontier, because that's what it is to them. Once again, they had not imagined, they can only imagine because they had not experienced. So this is all very new to a lot of women. But there are some women, of course, who come across my path who are very familiar with what the lifestyle is and what it involves and how it entails. Once again, I'm a dominant, so the way that I operate and the way that I do things is not particular to what the average male does. This also draws women into, what am I? What does that mean? How does that play out? What kind of relationships do I have? But the downfall and the downside about the circumstances in which I meet women who are intrigued but unfamiliar is because they bring a lot of their social programming to something that is based off of fundamental understanding. What I mean by that is the fundamental trust, the fundamental communication, the fundamental basics of the building blocks of any good relationship. That's what BDSM is all about for the most part, and with a sprinkle of desire, of course. But anyways, when it comes to the women that I have run across, they mimic the same things that the women that you see in the pictures have mimicked. They come in with the desire for self, and they come in with the desire to fulfill intrigue and curiosity that they have about me, because that's always been something about me that has drawn women, and they just don't understand. I know exactly what it is. It's the same thing that people pick up on when I'm out in public. I catch people looking at me all the time. Even when I'm with a woman, they'd be like, you can see those people looking at me. I have tuned it out a lot. When I first used to get it, and I'm not like a, what I'm saying? Like, I barely get my hair cut like that, and that's to dampen the appearance of what I am. I'm not saying that I'm some debonair man or something like that. Not at all. But it's something about me that women pick up. Well, I know what it is. It's that thing about me that women pick up on, that they are drawn to, and they have no choice but to fixate, to try to figure out what it is, because they feel it coming off of me. And this is not all women, of course. I'm not like some uber magnet, but there are some women that resonate with the vibrations that I give off when they're in my presence. So they try to figure out what it is, or they know what it is and they're attracted to it. Either way, I get stares. And then the women, they like, you see this girl, she was looking at you, and I was like, yeah, whatever, I don't care about it. If you ain't got the guts enough to say something about it, then I'm not entertaining anything. That's been me, right? But anyways, when it comes to me as a man who has a desire for more than one woman. A lot of the women have taken it personal, but I have covered extensively videos that explain these things. This video is more like a autobiography rather than a teachable point. Though you may learn some things about this video through this video, it's not necessarily something that is specifically meant to teach. This is just a point in which I share more portions of me on my channel and who I am and the things that I represent. Of course, in the stories, there are a lot of things that I'm leaving out. I mean, who's going to tell all their business on YouTube? I'm not that guy. But when it comes to who I am, I can share these things with you guys and to help you understand exactly why I think the way I think and the things that I have been through. I mean, I have plenty of stories. On my other channel, I tell a lot of them, and it's in regards to the BDSM world. But here, I tend to focus on the education and fundamentals of the civility between men and women and how they should exist. That's what my mission statement says anyways. Something along those lines, right? But yeah, I think as a man that when you have a certain stance about you, when you have a certain principle about you, when you have a certain belief system about you, there are constantly going to be people who are going to try to test this. Even if they invest themselves into that circumstance, a lot of women would just, a lot of women just want to see how far they can go with you. And if they can bring you down, that's a lot of the circumstances too. But some of them go in with pure intentions, but they lack the experience to carry on. They lack the submission. They lack the emotional maturity. They lack a lot of things. They lack the ability to know self, the intrinsic values of oneself. They lack the understanding of these things. So they get stuck at certain parts. When I'm a fully evolved person, right? Even though I am still through evolution, I am still enduring evolution. I am a fully developed person in regards to a lot of things. There are a lot of things that I understand about life that people my age have no idea about. They don't even think about these things. So crazy to me. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this little bit of story and this little bit of sharing of who I am and the things that make me who I am. I think this picture is very dear and near to me. This is one that I actually have multiple copies of. I believe I actually have it framed somewhere as well, because this was an important part of my life. And I thought that I might share that with you guys. Yes, I know I blurred the faces and such, but I gotta have a certain level of anonymity here, right? But anyways, like, comment, and share. Check me out on Facebook. Check me out on Patreon. But until next time, this has been a Wolf in Beta Clothes. May you have a good day, and peace be with you.